Be hearing or reading about it very soon. The day after the attack, defense stocks jumped, and Senator Warren and Van Hollen are calling on federal regulatory agencies to investigate whether anyone had the opportunity to trade defense industry stocks or commodities or make other trades based on this information. Joining us now is Democratic Senator from Maryland, Chris Van Hollen. He is also the ranking member on the Senate Subcommittee for Securities, Insurance, and Investment. And, Senator, it's worth noting that we're pretty sophisticated in our abilities these days to track trading that seems suspicious, trading that is based on bad information. So if there's some pattern here, I haven't seen the work done, but the Securities and Exchange Commission may be able to find out.
Well, that's right, Ali. And let me be clear. The biggest scandal here, of course, is President Trump taking us to the brink of war based on false information about an imminent attack, making false statements. But it also turns out that he couldn't help himself from blabbering on about this imminent attack that he says they were going to make when he was down in Mar-a-Lago. And it turns out there were lots of well-heeled guests down there. And it also turns out, as you said, that in those days, defense stocks happened to do very well and outperform other stocks. And so it does raise the basic question whether or not some of the president's guests had access to insider information and traded on that information.
Duh.
That's why Elizabeth
Come on, guys.
asked the SEC.
I'm sure this guy made money on it.
Stocks you were talking about, Northrop Grumman up 5.4%, Lockheed Martin was up 3.6%, Raytheon was up 1.5% between January 2nd and January 3rd. That would be expected when you see some sort of military activity. The question is whether anybody knew about that ahead of time. And here's the question. Is the president, who has market-moving information, he knows
these
he
are
talks
the
about
times.
this trade deal endlessly that we haven't
Every
yet seen
war
the,
is like
the text
this.
of. He does this sort of
We
thing.
have the opportunity to
How do you
change
separate
this.
Donald Trump as
Love
blustery
is the
guy
only
who
way to
wants
get over.
credit for things. Like
We have
the
to
economy,
understand
like jobs,
this.
like a deal with China, like a response to the Iranians, versus something that might be illegal behavior because somebody with access to Donald Trump is getting non-public information that could make them rich.
Well, that's a good question, and that's exactly why we asked the SEC to look into this. What we know is that, of course, there were rising tensions between the United States and Iran during that period of time. But having generalized information about rising tensions is very different than hearing
These guys aren't like other humans. They're not even humans. Does this guy look
really
human?
Big is going to go down, and you're going to read about it in the newspapers and see it.
You're being
on the
spun.
news. That
You're
kind
being
of
lied
information
to.
obviously could
This
be
is
used
post-
improperly for insider trading.
lying.
So we don't know all the facts.
There's the
except for
orangutan.
we do know about the reports that the president was making all these statements to people who are close to him down in Mar-a-Lago. And so it's worth looking into. As you say, ultimately you have to make individualized cases with respect to specific investors.
Well, that can be done. I want to play you what Eric Swalwell said on Andre Mitchell today. A different aspect to Donald Trump and Mar-a-Lago and who he's telling things to. Let's listen.
This is exactly what happened 2 weeks ago with the Iranian attack, where we took out General Soleimani, where the president did not tell the Gang of Eight. He told the Gang of Mar-a-Lago, where he was telling his friends and other senators there, and his son, who put out a tweet intimating that this was coming. But the president has cut out Congress. And I think you have to conclude that that's because Congress has continued, at least in the House, to hold him accountable. And so he's being punitive. But he's not just punishing and hurting us. He's putting our troops at risk, and he's putting our democracy at risk if we're not able to help defend it.
LBJ put our boys at risk.
But also important,
you know, Bill
that
Clinton,
the president is not
Hillary
taking
Clinton,
seriously the Article 1
Jimmy Carter,
obligations in the Constitution that Congress has. That's been clear
Ronald
from
Reagan,
the refusal to allow people to testify
George
and
H.
send
Bush,
information over.
George W. Bush. Come on. All of these people belong to the same club. You know, Democrats, Republicans, two wings of the same corporate oligarchy.
Well,
Wake
that's
up.
right, and there are really two
Wake
issues
up.
here. One is the fact that the president was talking
These guys are
openly
talking
about
through their
this
hat.
U.S. action. Not
Wake
only may have
up.
had market-moving
Breathe
impacts
deep.
and provided insider
Step
information,
up.
but
Don't be
it could
stepped
have
on.
obviously
The
put
window
our
of
own troops at
opportunity is
risk,
closing.
if our enemies find out about that
Get
information,
to it.
which is why it's supposed to be so
Get
close
real.
hold. And in fact, the president, as you indicated, did not even tell the Gang of Eight leading members of Congress. As we've learned from
Gang
this
of Eight.
post-attack situation,
It's like,
the evidence does not
MS-13.
support their claim that there was an
Who do you
imminent
think
attack,
sells
which
the
is probably
drugs?
the reason that
You're not
President
the good
Trump
ones.
and his advisors did not want to go and show their hand to the Congress because it was an empty hand in the sense that there was not an imminent threat that would justify the actions they were taking, which is why, Ali, it's so important that the Congress now pass the War Powers Resolution. The House
They
has
could have
acted.
in the
As of today, we
MDAA.
now know we will have
That
enough
was taken
Republican
out.
senators to join all the
Tulsi
Democratic
Gabbard,
senators
a
to
number of
pass
congressmen
a
and
War Powers
senators
Resolution to make
put
it
that
absolutely
back
clear
in, and it was
that
taken
the President of the
out.
United States cannot
It's
go to
that
war
he has been able to
without
go
a
to
congressional
war
authorization. That's
since
in
for
the
the last
Constitution.
20
but
years without
this
having to go to
president seems
Congress.
to not care about the Constitution. He wants to
Obama
rip it
did.
up
W
many
did.
days, and so it's very important that Congress take this bipartisan
President
action on
Dick
the War
Cheney
Powers
did.
Resolution.
Senator, before I let you go, you
Go
and the Senate
look
are
at
getting the articles
Cobb.
of impeachment tomorrow. Some activities should start next week, but just tonight we've had such a range of new information, including the Lev Parnas texts and things that they were doing about surveilling the U.S. ambassador in Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch. What do you make of the idea that the impeachment articles are going to the Senate? We still don't know whether you're going to get witnesses or testimony or documents, but there continues to be new information.